How's it going, guys? We are live. Welcome to the Bags to Riches podcast. I'm your host, Zach Ginn. Today, I got a special guest. We have Cody Barton from Phoenix, Arizona. Cody is a wholesaling millionaire, and he's going to give us his advice on how you can become a wholesaling real estate millionaire in your 20s. I don't care if you're in your 30s, 40s, 50s. He's going to show you exactly how he did it and how you can do the same exact thing. Cody, thank you so much for coming on.
Dude, happy to be here. Super excited to share with everybody that hops on here, and just to help share the path. That it isn't really that hard to put it all together, and just with taking some consistent action, how everybody can do the exact same thing, man. So excited to be here.
Let's get it going, man. One really cool part about your story, I really want to break down how you got into wholesaling because I think it's super interesting. I think you were like almost a master marketing affiliate person before you actually got into real estate. And it's really impressive to see like how you be able to turn that into wholesaling. So I want to hear, what is your full story getting to real estate wholesaling?
Yeah, definitely. So really it came when I was in high school. I always wanted to make a lot of money. I had read some books about, some people like Robert Kiyosaki's books on, becoming a millionaire in real estate. And, I always wanted to have a lot of money. I grew up, not super privileged, and, I couldn't really, I had to work for the things that I wanted, if I wanted to have nice things. And so, in high school, I would always do different things to make money. And then early on, when I was 17, I was a senior in high school, I got introduced to network marketing, and that was kind of the catalyst for really, going into entrepreneurship, then to real estate, right? So I did that, started making good money there, hustled at, 18, I was making over 100 grand a year, and, made a good chunk of money by the time I was 21 doing that. And then it fell apart, it crashed, and then I had to go start over. And so learned a lot through that. And, from reading Robert Kiyosaki's books and, seeing, I'm like, okay, well, I don't want to do this industry anymore. I want to figure out how can I go make a bunch of money doing something different. And real estate seemed like the next best thing. So I'm like, I'm going to look into real estate. And I started actually as a realtor. So I started working as a real estate agent before I actually got into wholesaling. It's funny because a lot of real estate agents, they say, I want to get into I want to be a real estate investor, and then they go get their real estate license. So I did that, and I did that for a couple of years, realized all I'm doing is helping people buy and sell homes, but I'm not even buying any homes. So the whole purpose of getting into the industry, I wasn't fulfilling on. So did that for a couple of years. I was selling about 30 houses a year, so was doing pretty well as an agent. But again, I didn't really want to do that. I wanted more freedom, and I wanted to actually invest in real estate, So then I fully transitioned into wholesaling from that point. Was I just had a hard stop of, I don't want to be an agent anymore. I hate it. I don't have freedom. And so I'm going to just start wholesaling. And I started with the, classic method of driving for dollars. That was how I got one of my first deals was, there is, a piece of land that I just put on my driving for dollars list, and I called the lady, and she wanted to sell it. And there was a developer that was building in the neighborhood. And basically I ended up paying too much for the lot. And then the developer, beat me up on price. So I only ended up making like $3 grand on that deal. But for me, it was proof of concept. So that it got me super, super stoked. And then it was just hit the ground running from there.
Wow. Okay. And what age did you get your first real estate wholesaling deal?
I was probably 22 or 23. I can't remember exactly. Like I say that is my first deal because that was my first true deal that's what I was trying to do. When I was an agent, I actually wholesaled a couple deals. Didn't really know that I was wholesaling them. It was like, I knew a couple investor buddies, and I had a seller that wanted to sell, and then they were just like, hey, I'll give you 10 grand for that if you just bring me that deal. And I'm like, okay. So I unintentionally wholesaled a couple deals, earlier on, but that was like the first one. I was probably like 22, 23 that I intentionally, got that deal.
Wow. That's awesome. And how long did it take you from your first wholesaling deal to become a millionaire through wholesaling exclusively?
Um, so, I mean, as far as, revenue wise, and under a year, we were doing, over
Wow.
$100,000 a month and assignment fees. So relatively quick. Once, that was the only thing that I was working on. Net worth wise, because I think there's a big difference between earning $1 million a year and being worth $1 million plus in net worth. Because making $1 million a year is great, but how much of that are you keeping? How much of that is being invested in assets that's increasing your overall net worth and as a business person? And so it was about a year and a half, probably about 20 months, so almost 2 years to go to over net worth millionaire, but under a year to actually be earning revenue wise and $1 million a year.
Perfect, dude. That's inspirational for me and for everyone else, because it took me 4 years to get that level. It's pretty impressive you're able to do that. I mean, especially in Phoenix, because I mean, you do some deals in my market, and it's pretty easy if you're physically here.
Yeah.
Phoenix is just insane. I mean, how are you able to hit those levels in Phoenix where everyone complains, everyone tries to go virtual and they're in Phoenix? Like, how are you able to have such a high amount of profit going on in such a crazy saturated market?
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the biggest things is like really the mindset around it. I didn't have a mindset of like, it's too competitive here, there's not enough deals here. So I just didn't think about it. I still don't really think about it. I know it's competitive because we do compete on deals with other investors, but like we just have always came from the mindset of abundance, that there's always enough deals. There was a data report a couple of years ago that was pulled that there's a data agency here or in Phoenix called the Cromford report, Cromford Data Agency. And so they had a report showing that in Maricopa County, which is, the biggest county in Arizona, there is over 500 transactions that were happening on a monthly basis at 50% of the assessed value or under. So I'm like, as long as I can get at least 10 of those, I could be making tons of money. If you could get a few of those, you're making great money. But if you can get, a little bit of that chunk of those homes, like you can make a killing. So I just always thought of it in abundance. And I know it sounds cheesy, but if you think in abundance consistently, and you're not worrying about other deals that other people are getting, and you keep your eyes on your own lane, like that's what we've always just done. And I've always done is I just keep my eyes in my lane and not really worry about what other people are doing, because I'm gonna make it happen regardless. And it's just, I think it's a mindset thing. A lot of it is competition, but I think a big part's the mindset.
I agree. And you run multiple businesses while doing millions in real estate wholesaling. So my next question I can ask you is, obviously you're not going out there running on appointments. You're not doing like the grunt work. How important are systems when it comes to actually building a large 7-figure operation for wholesaling?
It's everything. I mean, it separates the solopreneurs from the actual business owners. I mean, you're not a true business owner until you have your business running and you could actually go and do stuff while you're away. It's if the business stops when you leave, you're busy. You don't have a business. You have a high paying job, is what a lot of real estate investors have. And so, which there's nothing wrong with that, but it's just you can't get it confused. And it's recognizing where you actually want your business to go. And so for me, like systems, there's an acronym on systems. It's save yourself some time, energy, and money. Like that's what system stands for. And so if you start setting systems up, early on, like if you're doing, 1 to 2 deals a month and you want to go up to doing more deals, if you want to go 4, 5, 6 plus deals a month, you have to start getting some systems involved. And, then from there, if you want to continue to scale, it's making those systems better. And, then it becomes about your people and the culture and the organization too. But it's crucial. Like you're playing yourself if you think you're going to build a business that consistently does, $1 million a year if you don't have good systems, unless you're involved in everything that's happening. Like I'm in Florida right now. I flew out here yesterday. I haven't really worked today. Like we still got, 2 contracts signed. Like there's another promising appointment that one of our guys is doing later today. Like, and they're stoked, they're making money. And, we actually have a business that can operate without being there every single second.
That's great. I mean, it's literally the dream. The one thing I could have to ask you here is,
Mm-hmm.
in your business today, what is the structure looking like? How are you able to make things run so smoothly? And what are some tips you can give for someone looking to go from solopreneur to actually building millions in real estate wholesaling?
Yeah. So I think, to answer the first question, so we've just recently, which I know, Matt Beard, he's now our business partner on our wholesaling business as well. And so the last couple of years, it had just been myself and Pace Morby, running the business. So I'd run the operations, basically kind of overseeing the team and structure and all of that. And then we had a team that was facilitating. And so I would be, kind of checking in. And so, and Pace would do sales training and, kind of help lead the vision of the company. And so that's what it was. And then earlier at the beginning of this year, we decided to merge with Matt. And so Matt's now pretty much running the operation. I kind of run, finance, payroll, like a lot, some of the back end stuff, and then helping with organizing our systems and helping make sure that we have things running smooth. I help with hiring people, onboarding, training, things like that now, and just making sure that we have great people in the right seats to do the right things. And so, most of our organization are virtual assistants. We have about 20 virtual assistants doing things from, lead generation to help us generate our leads. We have virtual assistants doing lead management that help us follow up with those leads that are generated. And then we actually have 3 of our virtual assistants that are talented enough that they can actually close sellers over the phone. We do have another sales guy. He's out of Washington, and so he closes as well. So he's our US based acquisition rep as well. So we have that. We have another girl on our team that's doing our disposition of our deals. And then we have one JV guy on our team to help bring in JV deals and fix and flips and, help us get more opportunities at rentals and things like that. So we have a pretty small operation in the US, but we have a large, team in the Philippines that helps run a lot of it. So that's essentially what the operation looks like today. And then that question, what was the second question again? I'm like, where was that?
Yeah, so no worries. So if someone's looking to actually start going from solopreneur to actually building a 7-figure operation, or maybe they're already at 7 figures, but they actually want to start scaling or really delegating more tasks, how should someone start doing that? Strictly, they're doing everything themselves. How do you start doing that?
So the first thing is like realizing that you can't do everything yourself. So I think what I see constantly is that people have the hardest time trying to, they try to just control everything. And so the reality is here's the reality number is realizing your team is going to screw stuff up. They're going to blow up contracts. They're going to sell deals for less than you probably could have sold it for. They're going to screw stuff up. And that's just part of being a business owner. And just being okay with that, because you as a business owner are usually going to care the most about your business, not somebody on your team. Doesn't mean that you can't get great people, but if you get great people, just be okay with them making some mistakes and relinquishing some control, because if you hire somebody, you have to be able to give them responsibility. And a lot of business owners I see, they try to give responsibility, but then now they're sitting there freaking micromanaging them and not allowing that person to grow into the role. And they're either going to succeed in the role or they're not. And if they don't, then you just have to replace them with somebody else that's going to be a better fit. And so I would say that mindset shift of, okay, I'm going to hire somebody. They're probably not going to be as good as me. And then they're probably going to screw some stuff up, but they get your life back. They give you, more freedom when you have the right person. So understanding that, first of all, and then, second is understanding that you hire the next most important thing. It's going to be different for everybody. But for example, if you're a solopreneur just doing everything on your own, you have to look at, okay, like I view this business and there's only a few parts to it. There's lead generation, there's acquisition, there's disposition, and then there's administrative tasks and system management and things like that have to be managed. So I would say for most people, it's going to be the first step is getting your lead generation automated, whether that's direct mail, whether that's, virtual assistants doing cold calling or virtual assistants doing text marketing for you, or you're doing PPC, you need automated lead generation. So that's the first stage, is get your lead generation to where it's just going consistently. And then from there, for me, because I don't like doing acquisition, I never did, is, I found I found somebody to partner with and help with acquisition, but you can hire them. So if somebody, is doing all the acquisition themselves, hire somebody to do acquisition for you. No, they probably won't close as good as you, but if you teach them what you know and you help them get better, they can close 70% as good, which then you have more time back to live your life and to be able to grow the business more and be able to grow other businesses. So it's just adding on as you need. So if you don't have the lead generation figured out, you got to get that, because there's no leads, you got no deals. So once that's figured out, then it's all right, how do I close more deals? You hire an acquisition or partner with somebody that's going to do acquisition for you. And then you have, the disposition side, which, if you can hire on a per, fee basis, a transaction coordinator, and then on disposition at the beginning, I always tell people to JV with people until they have their lead generation and their acquisition machine worked out. Because too many people squabble over, $3,000 or $5,000 or $7,000 fees that somebody else is making on a deal, because they're thinking that they need to keep that money. For us, we're like speed of transaction, speed of moving deals. Like, yes, we want to make the most amount of money on every deal, but if we're starting out, if I looked at starting out again, I wouldn't be focusing my time on dispoing deals, because I just want to get an acquisition machine. So I just have deals constantly coming in, and then I'll dispo some with somebody else that can help me sell them. And then as my business continues to mature, then build the dispo side of the business out. Because you can at that point, you just have this freaking machine just pumping cash in constantly, that now you can go and maximize your assignment fees on the back end and make the most on each deal.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the one thing I do have to say is, this was great information. Everyone hears me rant a lot on my lives because I do a bunch of videos that, there's a lot of people out there saying I do all this business, I do this big business, and they really don't. There's a lot of people I've seen in wholesaling, but people hear me talk about. But with Cody's business, I've dealt with people in his operation. I've dealt with Caroline.
Yeah, Caroline.
Disco too. Yeah. Her, Matt, like those guys are legit. Like they know what they're doing. I've seen them do deals. Like especially Matt. Like we've been on the same HUDs. So when you guys look at like someone like Cody on like YouTube, like his YouTube channel, when he says something, it's legit. He's not this fake guy out there. So wanted to clear that up for everyone watching in the Facebook group and everyone, that he actually runs real business. That's why he's on here. That's why I'm trying to interview him. So wanted to clear that up. But the next part is, in your business now, it's running pretty smooth. It's running really well. Obviously, there's some issues.
It feels like it. And then sometimes there's fires, like every business.
Oh, my gosh. There's fires everywhere. But like you said, starting out, the marketing when it comes to virtual is really tough. In your business right now, what's the hardest part right now, or what's the biggest difficult thing that you're having, especially when scaling up even more? Is it marketing, dispo, acquisitions? What is it for you?
People, not even any of them really. It's just people. Like when you're building a business and that revolves around people, having good people working in the business, it's managing and then people. Like I would say lead generation works great for us. We have no issues there. The acquisition of deals, works where we're doing great there. Disposition could be better there. We still haven't put tons and tons of time into our dispo process. Most of our buyers are the same, 5 to 10 people that buy most of our stuff if it's in Arizona. The big thing is for us too, is we take down a lot of our deals. Like we're true investors in the sense that like we have, right now 8 different fix and flip projects that are going on in Arizona. And, we have our first 2 that were taken down in Florida that close next week. And we buy rentals. We, launched 4 Airbnbs in Arizona last month. And so, we take down a lot of our deals. And so our dispo isn't the strongest. So if I had to say an area where we can get better, it's definitely dispo. But it's also not something we're super worried about. But as you grow your business and you have more people involved, which I'm sure you see this too, is, it's keeping the people excited, keeping them motivated, keeping them on track, keeping them, consistently performing day after day, week after week, month after month. I would say that's, the biggest challenge because you're balancing making sure that the people you hire, they're a good culture fit, and you're making sure that the people you hire, they are, on track to making the money that they want to make, to be happy to stay in your organization, and they feel like they're getting what they need to be, to be there long term. So those are the biggest challenges that we have, currently.
Well, let's talk about it. So you run obviously a bunch of businesses. You have the Subject to business, you have the wholesaling business, you have YouTube channels, you do a bunch of crazy stuff, which is great. But you also do startvirtually.com, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So by the way, guys, if you've heard of it, it was VA Hub in the past, but now it's Start Virtually. So now I know. Okay. So startvirtually.com is what it's at right now. That's another VA business that you have. So can you explain what that is and for the people?
Yeah, for sure. So, basically kind of how that business even started was we didn't intend to start all these different businesses at the beginning. We wholesaled, and then we're like, well, we're wholesaling. Why don't we fix and flip? Okay, well, we're already wholesaling, so it's easy to do that. So we were wholesaling, then we're fix and flipping. And then it's like, well, we should buy some rentals for tax advantages. So then we were buying rentals, and, we started Airbnbs because of the eviction moratorium last year. We were pissed off because we couldn't evict some of our bad tenants. And we're like, how do we avoid this? So we started launching some Airbnbs. And so we start these different businesses out of kind of, natural progression of business. And then for us, we'd been running our business with virtual assistants. I've been using virtual assistants since 2017. And so, and Matt has, for years as well. And so we would joke around in 2019. We're like, why don't we just start our own virtual assistant business? Because everybody's always coming to us and asking us how to get virtual assistants. How do we hire them? How do we train them? How do we manage them? And so that's how that business really was born. And, the beginning of, or basically the month COVID, shutdowns happened in March of last year is when we started that. And so basically, Start Virtual, our whole goal and, thing that we help people with is, we help people hire virtual assistants, and we help manage them. You have to, teach them the way that you like your business to run, obviously, because we don't know that. But, we help hire them, train them, manage them. We fire them. If you don't like them, we replace them with somebody else. And we pretty much make it really streamlined for people to hire virtual assistants and get them integrated into their business and have, an additional manager that's helping, manage those, their individual VAs as well. So that's, and we do it for, a few different industries, real estate, obviously being the primary one. People can hire cold callers there, text marketers, systems managers, and train their cold callers to become lead managers for them from there as well. So, that's a big part of what we do at Start Virtual is we help people, with the automation processes of their business and helping, implement their systems in their businesses.
Wow. Okay. So I kind of knew a little bit about that, and it's pretty cool to see. So what are some of your tips if someone, obviously they want to use startvirtual.com, but if they want to do the first VA or something like that, what are some tips you can give for someone to look out for a bad apple versus a good VA?
Oh, for sure. So I love that question because I think sometimes people go into hiring a virtual assistant with the wrong, expectation. And the thing people have to realize is people are people. And so sometimes, you may hire somebody and they're not a good fit. And it's just fire them quick and then get them replaced with somebody else. But, the way to have the most success with virtual assistants is integrating them into your culture for your business. So if you're doing team meetings or partner meetings and, different meetings with your team, having your virtual assistants be a part of those meetings. Because what do people want at the end of the day with their work? They want to feel like they're a part of something. They want to feel like they're getting contribution. They want to feel significance. They want to feel like their voice is being heard. They don't want to be treated like a robot. I see the people that have the least success with virtual assistants are the people that treat their VAs like they're not even human. They don't treat them, like they're actually part of the business. So the way to get the best results is bringing them on and having them, be a part of the training and the culture and the different things you're doing within your business. Because that's what, at the end of the day, is going to have them excited to be around long-term with you too. So the other things we do, we do a lot of, we do daily huddles with our team, in the morning. Matt's running those, and then call calibrations weekly. So if they're cold calling, pulling some of their recordings and listening to them of the calls they're making and give them coaching. The managers that Start Virtual, they help do that as well. But if you have certain types of strategies, like for us, like we buy wholesale deals, we buy subject to, we buy, seller finance deals. So we coach our team on how to understand how to have those conversations with these homeowners. And so, the more that you pour into your people, whether they're virtual assistants or not, the better results people are going to get. But managing expectations of, if you are not, number one, if you're not in a position financially to, be paying for marketing for multiple months in a row, it's probably not a good fit to pay for, a virtual assistant. It's just not. You should start with some of the more affordable lead gen strategies, like driving for dollars, or, JVing on deals, or, not door knocking, until you have a little bit more capital to spend on marketing, is definitely my recommendation there too.
Okay. And obviously you've had a lot of VAs and a lot of people, like physically you've had to hire and fire, right?
Yes.
So the one thing I want to tell here is, what is your biggest nightmare people story, and what did you learn from it?
Oh man, which one? I mean, when you're hiring and firing and going through building a business so much, like you're constantly having issues with people. And so, I mean, I wouldn't say there's any like real big significant nightmare stories, but because I take responsibility for all of it, because if I don't do a good job as a leader, like I could look back at a couple acquisition people we hired in the US, and I don't feel like we as a company, set them up for the best results starting them out. And so, I mean, shoot, I can't even really think of, really nightmares, but just like major headaches. Like, so here it is. Here's the biggest thing would be people that were a bad culture fit. We'd hire too fast and we'd fire too slow.
Yeah.
That would just be across the board with every company that we have, is we'd hire too fast because we just needed to fulfill the role immediately because we were, feeling a bottleneck in our business. And then we would hire them and then they'd be a bad fit, but we needed the role filled, and their, halfway done job is still at least better than no job, right? So, then we'd wait too long to fire them. So I would just say that in general is just hiring too fast, not, allowing for a few different conversations and really seeing if they're up to do the job and they're a good fit of the culture, right? Because for us, we're big on culture. And if somebody doesn't fit, our culture, then they're just not going to make it. They could be really good at the job, but if they don't come in and they're not, inspired about, doing the right thing, making shit happen, and, just taking massive action, like they're just not going to fit in with our culture. Like if they're typically thinking about, what am I going to do on this weekend, and how am I going to, find a way to take Friday off early, like they're not going to last in our organization. So I would say bad culture fits are like cancers to your organization, and that you have to remove fast. We do that very quickly now. We have an HR consultant that basically hires and fires our people now. And so as soon as they're just not a good culture fit, it's like, bye, like you're gone. So that's been our nightmares, is just hiring too fast and firing too slow.
Okay. Wow. I mean, that's a big lesson learned. I learned that pretty quick too. So
yeah.
That's huge. So my next question here is, you run a pretty good subject to business also.
Yeah.
And I mean, it seems insanely profitable. So how do you separate the wholesaling business from the creative finance side of things? Because it seems very difficult to do, because a lot of it seems intertwined sometimes. You got some overflow from wholesaling leads that go into there. Like, how do you separate it?
So for us, we don't separate anything. It's just all a funnel. And so like, if you look at it like this big funnel of, there's all these opportunities that come into our world. And then as they move down the funnel, it gets smaller and smaller. And then at the bottom of the funnel, they shoot out whatever opportunity it's going to be. So like, for example, we don't market for, seller carries or subject tos, or we market for our wholesale opportunities. And then we convert based off of pain points and seller motivation. So we look for our acquisition machine looks like we're just looking for, distressed sellers or motivated seller opportunities. And then our team's job is to identify how we can solve that seller's problem. Is the best way to solve the seller's problem because they owe too much on the property? Is it a subject to? Or is the best way to solve their problem a cash deal because of their particular situation that they're in? Or is it a tired landlord that owns the house free and clear, doesn't want to be a landlord anymore, but likes the consistent monthly income that they want to receive in retirement? Perfect. We structure it as a seller finance where we make them a down payment and then we make them monthly payments. And so we structure it all around what is going to be the best solution for the seller, but we market for everyone. So that's the big thing that we do is we don't focus on marketing for a certain type of acquisition. We market to distressed, and then we acquire based on solving a seller's problem, and they just go to different places. So like we have our wholesaling business entity. We wholesale our properties from our wholesaling company over to our buy and hold for rentals, or to our Airbnb LLC, or to our fix and flip LLC. They all start in our acquisition machine and then go to their home, which could be one of these other entities based on what we're going to do with that property. So that's how we separate it out.
Okay. So you're actively marketing through the wholesaling to get through the funnel to the subject to.
Yep.
So are you marketing maybe to properties? Like, what do you do with the ones that are like under 10% equity? Are those you're just not marketing to? Like, how do you get to those?
We market to a lot of unknown equity lists as well.
Yeah.
So like, obviously, as you know, on unknown equity, it's like you don't know what you're going to get. And so, a lot of those will come up. And then like if we niche down for like, those niche lists like probate or pre-foreclosure or tax default, like sometimes on those, we won't even, filter it for an equity percentage. We just want to know based on like pain points that could be there and seeing if, those people we could help. So that's typically how we'll do the marketing.
Okay. I got a couple more questions for Cody before we get the audience going. So guys, remember, comment below your questions for Cody, get it answered. So next question here is pre-pandemic versus post-pandemic on your business. What was the biggest difference between Cody Barton as the businessman before COVID versus after?
I would say the number one biggest difference is just like awareness. Like obviously as anyone that's paying attention to the world right now, we have a lot of inflation happening. There's a lot of money being printed constantly right now. And so just being aware to be getting my financial house in order as best I can. So making sure I have, stabilized assets, making sure that I have properties that are cash flowing, making sure I'm not increasing my personal living expenses, to be super lavish. Like, yes, I, go on vacations and I, just did buy a new car and different things, but like, I make sure like and obviously I worked to this. This didn't happen overnight, but like I keep my personal living expenses at under 10% of what I make. So I never am feeling stressed about money. I think one of the biggest challenges, whether pre-pandemic or post-pandemic, is people not having a good money management system. Like I follow very strict money management systems that I'm very disciplined with. And so, I've gotten even more strict on that, during the pandemic, after the pandemic or whatever world we're living in right now of this kind of after, but not after pandemic. Right. So, I think it's just, making sure that the financial world is in order. Our businesses are healthy. They have good reserves because I want to make sure our people are being taken care of and that they can be paid, because I take it really seriously that, we have people on payroll that they support their wives and kids and families off of the income we pay them. And so that's been really the biggest thing, is just making sure that we're very financially secure through this time and making sure that everything's good, and then encouraging our team to do the same personally as well, so that they can have some good habits. So they're not, too many people. I'm sure you've talked to people that they just spend everything they make, in their business, and it's, they increase their lifestyle as their income goes up, and it's a bad habit.
I agree. That's huge. I do the same exact thing. So the next question I have here, obviously you're not a lawyer, financial advisor, tax person at all, but off the books here, that you're not giving legal advice here, but what is the biggest tax tip you can give for someone who is ramping up a wholesaling business right now?
So if you're ramping up a wholesaling business right now and you're actually making, if you're ramping it up and you're doing a lot of deals and you're making money, buy rentals. Like that's the biggest thing. Like you can get and have a good CPA. Like if you don't have a CPA that understands how to do forced depreciation, because depreciation of a property is typically like the tax code is over 27 and a half years. There is a loss that can be taken every year to reduce your tax implications against that property based on, your CPA can explain this to you. If they can't, then you got the wrong person. But having the right CPA that, can do strategy with you. I have a call with my CPA every quarter and we have a conversation. This is how much money I've made, personally this year so far. How many rentals have we bought? What's my tax liability looking like right now? What's my game plan for next quarter to acquire more properties so I can pay less in taxes at the end of the year? And so it really, rentals, having a good bookkeeper, having a good CPA is game changer. And then you're, making sure you're buying rentals to, help with the depreciation is going to be huge. So those would be the biggest things that, because what else do you do, right? You write off your marketing and other expenses, but there's not a ton of things you can write off past that. And if you're making too much cash, like, you're going to get hosed in taxes at the end of the year.
It's crazy. So, great tip there. So let's get some questions from the audience. So Kevin asks here, hey, Zach, this is for you, Cody. What advice would you give if someone hardly has time to do cold calling? Mm-hmm. They work 12 to 15-hour day, Monday through Friday, and obviously weekends they spend with their family. What would your tips be for someone like that?
So it depends on like the amount of deals that you're trying to do and what you're trying to really do in your business. Like that's going to be the biggest thing but I would you can hire people to do that for you. Like I hired virtual assistants to help me do, cold calls because I didn't have enough time in the day to make all the cold calls. Right. And so I would look at if you can afford hiring a virtual assistant, maybe $1,500, $2,000 a month, for a virtual assistant plus a little bit of data and, a dialer to have leads coming in when you're working, that would be ideal. Because if you don't have the time, like that's like, you got to figure it out. And like, this is going to sound kind of harsh, but I get like you want to spend the weekends with your family, but what do you want more? Like you got to go cast the vision for your family, for your wife or, and say, hey, I'm going to start working on Saturdays or Sundays or whichever day that is so that you can start propelling your business forward. Because if you think that, Zach or I got to where, our businesses are at by not working weekends, you'd be a fool to think that because we had to work lots of weekends, lots of nights, lots of early mornings and late nights and heartaches and headaches of, building the business. And so you just got to, set your family up and, cast the vision of why is it important for you to do that on the weekends a little bit to have some of that time. Because you could have leads coming in during the week from, VAs, but like you got to find some time to follow up with those leads and try to convert those into contracts. So that would be, my advice. I know it sounds kind of harsh for, you need to do it on the weekends because you don't have to. You do what you have to do until you can do what you want to do. That's what this business is about, is you have to do some of the stuff that sucks for a little while. But if you're smart, meaning that you actually like help, continue to grow and educate yourself as you're getting your business going, you can get yourself into a position where you don't have to work weekends. I don't work on the weekends typically in the business. I work on the weekends on the business. So I strategize and come up with new ideas and implement new system ideas and, record YouTube videos and different things like that. But, earlier on, like I was working those weekends. So that's just something you have to look at.
That's it. That's great advice there, Cody. Leslie says she relates so much. Hey, when I was an agent. Brenda says, with Airbnb, do I have to ask the neighbors for permission? I don't know that one.
Yes and no.
Okay.
Ask for forgiveness, not permission.
Oh, I
but
love it.
It also depends on the HOA as well. Like you don't want to get into an HOA where it's like extremely not okay to do it. We have a couple in HOA communities where it's technically not allowed, but it's just not an issue. The neighbors don't care. Our Airbnb manager met the neighbors and they're cool with it. So there's no issues. But it's something that, if you're in a really strict HOA, I would probably not do it. And then, a couple of ours are in non-HOA communities, so we could do whatever we want in those communities. So
perfect. Kenny says, afternoon, Zach and Cody. Great stuff here. Thanks, Kenny. Francisco says, what do you expect from a VA every day for cold calling there in Portland, Oregon?
So when it comes to a VA, and there's a video on my YouTube channel that I talk about how to qualify leads, because our virtual assistants qualify something as a lead based on motivation, timeline, price, condition. So motivation, timeline, price, condition, the 4 pillars to a lead. And so we want to see those 4 pillars. And so for us, we want to see at least 1 to 2 net leads every day from our virtual assistants, and we're happy with that. So that's what we're looking for. Some people I talk to, they're like, oh, I want 5 to 7, or I get 4, 5, 6 leads a day. Well, we like the approach of being more like a sniper than like a shotgun. Like, we don't want to talk to everyone that said that they have a pulse and they would talk about their house. Like, we only want to talk to people that are actually wanting to sell a house. And so we try to vet them down as much as we can, when they get into our system. So 1 to 2 net leads a day is what we're pretty stoked with. And Mark, yes, we do use Noah for Airbnb as our manager.
I love it. Millionaire Dropout, wholesaling's passion. Just picked up my first check. Sweet.
Oh, yeah. Congrats on that, man.
Awesome. His question is, how can I keep a stream of consistent deals coming in every month?
So I call this the wholesale hamster wheel. There's a lot of people that this is what they do. They're hustling to get leads. And then they get a contract on a deal. And then now they stop hustling for leads. And then now they're hustling to try to sell the deal. And then they finally sell the deal. And then they hold it like a baby all the way to closing. And then they close. And then now they have no business because they stopped generating leads. So now they got to run back over here, start generating leads again. And then they get a contract and they're running over here trying to sell it. Then they sell it. Then they're babying it to closing. And then they got to start over again. So the biggest thing that you can do to keep your consistent deals coming in every month is having consistent leads generating constantly for your business. If your lead generation stops, your business is stopping. All a wholesaling business is marketing and sales. So you have to keep that marketing machine going on so you can do the sales and convert those leads into contracts. And so that's so whatever that means for you, whether it's direct mail, whether it's hiring a virtual assistant from startvirtual.com, whether that's hiring your freaking little brother to cold call or text for you, whatever that looks like, you need consistent leads. That's how you get consistent deals, is consistent leads.
Sweet. Keep it up. Mark says, 2 of my favorite value-driven people online. Thank you for both your massive contribution to the wholesaling community. Sweet.
Thank you.
So last question here. Dante asks here, actually do a couple more questions. How much money should you have for a VA?
So when you're looking at hiring a VA, there's a couple different ways you could do it. You can go source one yourself and train them, hire them, manage them, and all that. You'll probably pay $4 to $6 an hour, going that route. Start virtual. If you hire a virtual assistant through, our company, you're going to pay a little bit more of a premium, $9 an hour. But the other thing that you have with that is you have a manager helping manage that VA, and they're already going through a real estate training boot camp before they get started with you of how our company trains our team. So you have, a manager and a virtual assistant that are, rooting for your success and, helping ensure that you're successful with that virtual assistant. And if you need to replace them, we'll help get them replaced and, onboard that newest one for you as well. Or if you want to add more, it becomes really easy. So it really just depends on where you're at in your business. For like one virtual assistant to cold call full time. And, so if you have one cold calling full time, you have a dialer system for them to, be logged into to call multiple lines at a time. And then with some data costs and things like that, around $2,000 to $2,500 a month, is what you should be expecting, going through obviously like a service like ours, give or take $500 less if you're doing, if you're sourcing them and doing all of that on your own. So give you kind of a general range there.
Perfect. Last question here from Kayla. What is the best list to pull or even the best niche list?
So in our business, there's not really like a best list. Like everyone thinks there's some secret like ninja list. It's like the best list is the one that you can consistently, work and market to. Our favorite are the high equity absentee, as generic as that sounds. Like we like the high equity absentee 55 plus. So, because we start with who's our ideal seller, because there's different types of sellers, right? There's the sellers that are high distress, high motivation, that are like in pre-foreclosure and tax default, and they have health issues and they got a bunch of freaking crazy stuff going on in their life. And then there's like the convenience sellers. So we market primarily to convenience sellers. Like we do market to the niche, like the stress list too. But our favorite type of seller to work with are like the older folks because the markets we market in are Arizona and Florida. So there's a lot of retirement communities and second homes in those areas. So we typically like to market to 55 plus because typically like the older folks, they like convenience more than they care about the actual, money as much on the home. So we market to people that like convenience. We market to people that it's not their primary home. So they have less emotional attachment. They have more desire for convenience. If they're out of state, it's even better because then they just don't even want to mess with it because it's in another state. So those are the types of people that we like to market to. Convenience, this will be easy, and they don't have to stress about it. So we make, a good amount of money on the deal, and they got what they wanted, which was, I don't want to deal with all this crap. I just want to live my life. I'm retired, whatever. And they could just move on with their life and, move forward. So that's our avatar of the type of person we like to market to, versus, when you have these people that are in foreclosure and they got all this other stuff going on, there's all sorts of freaking title crap that comes up, that there's liens against them and their property, and problems and fires you got to put out. So yes, we do those deals, but it's like, what would you rather do? Like, if you're at the airport and you're like walking to get to your terminal, it's like you can step on the one side where it's like there's the walking treadmill. It's like it helps you get there faster. It's less work. So we choose that versus like, why make it harder on ourselves? So that's what we market to.
That's what it's all about. All right, guys, thank you for the questions. So the last question for you is, this is the Bags Riches podcast. So I have the same question to every single person on here. So I started 17 with $300 in my bank account as a bag boy. So if you're back at 18 years old, you have $300 in your bank account, and you have all the knowledge you have today in Maricopa County, what would you do? What would you do to become the next Cody Barton?
I would do probably the same thing I did to start, which is I would start, I would drive for dollars, immediately, like ASAP. And then I would literally go drive for $1. I would call the investors that are buying in the hottest zip codes, and I would go drive for dollars in those zip codes, find the distressed properties, and then I would cold call those owners of those properties myself. And then I would find, a price that would work based off of talking to the investors that I knew that buy in those areas. I would get it under contract for, a price that I knew I would make a spread selling it to one of those investors, sell it to the investor, take that profit and reinvest into the business, and then just start scaling it up from there. Still do driving for dollars probably, and then hire a virtual assistant to get more leads coming in, and then just kind of build it out from there. But I always like keeping it lean. I always like, when people are starting, I always tell people to keep it lean if you can. If you have a lot of time but not a lot of money, just go out there and just take a lot of physical action to get deals in the door to start your business out.
Boom. Sweet, Cody. Thank you so much. Love to have you on next year. Last question here again. Sorry. But if I have you on next year, what is the number one thing you want to accomplish in 1 year from now before you go on this podcast again in your wholesaling business?
In our wholesaling business, hire a full-time operator to get Matt even out of the business, where we have somebody just operating the wholesaling business for us, so that none of us are involved in it more than just like maybe 2 meetings a month. That's our goal right now, is just dialing in our systems, our processes, and get the business to the point where myself, Matt, and Pace are just fully out of it, besides just a couple meetings, and where we're still able to do 7 figures a year, have really happy team members that are making great money, that are living a great life with their family, with a great team that's a great culture fit for our organization and what we're looking to do. And, just have the machine run. That's our goal. That's the vision for over this next year to get in place.
Perfect, Cody. Thank you so much for coming on. Again, startvirtual.com and the Cody Barton YouTube channel. Is there any parting thoughts you have for the audience before we hop off?
Awesome. No, I mean, just for everybody that's on and maybe maybe you've never done a deal, or maybe you're doing 1 or 2 deals a month, or you're kind of in that range of just trying to scale up your business. You're in a job maybe you don't like, is just keep taking action. Stop getting analysis paralysis. Just take consistent action, talk to sellers, make offers, try to get properties under contract, get those sold, go make mistakes, go freaking screw stuff up and have to go figure it out and, put the business together. Too many times people just sit in analysis paralysis and study just all the information, but they never take any action on it. Don't be that person. Go out there, just take consistent action, and it'll work for you, because it works for everybody that takes action with it and they course correct, they correct and continue. Make a mistake, correct, continue forward, and just keep rocking.
Cool. That's it. Cody, thank you so much. Can't wait to see you all next year.